The sun was beginning to set over the Chicago skyline as Erica Bennett checked her watch. She was running a few minutes behind schedule for the annual fundraiser, benefiting inner-city education programs. As the founder and CEO of Bennett Technologies, one of the country's fastest-growing software companies, Erica had personally donated over $30 million to educational causes in the past year alone. Tonight's event was special. They were launching a new coding program for underserved high schools. Erica smoothed down her deep blue evening dress and adjusted the simple diamond pendant at her neck, a gift from her grandmother who had raised her in a small apartment on the south side. From those humble beginnings to becoming one of the few black female billionaires in America, Erica never forgot where she came from. That's why nights like tonight mattered so much. She steered her modest electric sedan through downtown traffic. Despite her wealth, Erica preferred driving herself most places. Her security team had insisted on following in a separate vehicle for events like this, but she'd negotiated the small freedom of arriving on her own terms. The car was her thinking space, a rare moment of solitude in her hectic schedule. The blue and red lights flashing in her rearview mirror caught her by surprise. Erica checked her speed. She hadn't been going more than 3 miles over the limit. She signaled and pulled carefully to the curb, mentally running through her routine. License and registration ready, hands visible on the steering wheel, calm and polite responses. Officer Blake Reynolds approached the vehicle with a hand resting on his holster, flashlight beam pointing directly at her face. Erica squinted against the harsh light but maintained her composure. "License and registration," he demanded, without offering a greeting or explaining why he'd pulled her over. "Good evening, officer," Erica replied evenly. "May I ask why I've been stopped?" Reynolds' expression hardened. "License and registration first. Then we'll get to why." "Of course." Erica reached slowly for her purse on the passenger seat. "I'm just getting my license from my bag." She handed him her license, then said, "My registration is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach over to get it now, if that's okay." Without waiting for his response, she leaned toward the glove box. "I didn't say you could move," Reynolds barked, his voice rising sharply. Erica froze, her hand halfway to the compartment. "I'm sorry, officer. I was just getting the registration as you asked." "Step out of the vehicle. Now." His tone left no room for discussion. "Officer, I don't understand what—" "Out of the car," he shouted, yanking open her door and reaching for her arm. Erica unfastened her seatbelt with trembling fingers and stepped out slowly, conscious of the growing knot of fear in her stomach. In her 20 years of driving, she'd been pulled over before. Being a black woman in an expensive car sometimes drew attention. But something about this officer's demeanor was different. More aggressive, more unpredictable. "Turn around and place your hands on the vehicle," Reynolds ordered. "Sir, I was simply reaching for my registration as requested. I haven't done anything wrong." Despite her rising anxiety, Erica kept her voice steady. Years of navigating hostile boardrooms had taught her how to remain outwardly calm, even when her heart was racing. "You failed to signal a lane change back there," he said, though Erica knew with absolute certainty she had used her turn signal for every move. "And now you're being uncooperative." "I'm cooperating fully, officer. There must be some misunderstanding." She turned to face him directly, hoping to de-escalate the situation with calm reasoning. "I can show you my registration now if you'll allow me to retrieve it." That's when Reynolds made his move. With shocking speed, he grabbed Erica's shoulder and spun her around, slamming her against the side of her car with enough force to knock the wind from her lungs. Her cheek pressed against the cool metal of the car roof as he roughly pulled her arms behind her back. "Stop resisting," he shouted, though Erica wasn't fighting back in any way. "I'm not resisting," she gasped, struggling to catch her breath. "Please, you're hurting me." The commotion was drawing attention now. A small crowd had begun to gather on the sidewalk, some headphones out, recording the escalating scene. Through her shock and fear, Erica registered this detail with a distant sense of relief. Witnesses. Evidence. When Reynolds loosened his grip slightly, Erica attempted to straighten up and turn toward him again. "Officer, please. This is unnecessary. I was on my way to a charity event. I'm happy to cooperate with—" Her words were cut short as Reynolds shoved her backwards. Caught off balance in her heels, Erica stumbled and fell hard onto the pavement. her palms scraping against the rough concrete as she tried to break her fall. Her evening dress tore at the knee. For a moment, the shock of the fall left her motionless. What happened next would be replayed thousands of times across social media by morning. As Erica attempted to rise to her knees, Officer Reynolds delivered a sharp kick to her side that sent her sprawling back to the ground with a cry of pain. "Stay down," he ordered, standing over her with his hand on his taser. The crowd on the sidewalk reacted immediately, voices rising in outrage and disbelief. "She's not doing anything. That's assault. Someone call his supervisor." A woman pushed through the gathering onlookers and rushed forward, phone held high to capture everything. "I'm streaming this live. Badge number 8742, we all see what you're doing." Erica lay on the ground, one hand protectively covering her ribs where the officer's boot had connected. The physical pain was secondary to the humiliation and shock washing over her. Just 20 minutes ago, she'd been reviewing notes for her speech about creating opportunities for young people to believe in systems that would support them. The bitter irony wasn't lost on her. Through a haze of confusion, she became aware of a car pulling up behind her own. A door slammed and footsteps approached quickly. "That's enough." "Reynolds." The voice was male, authoritative, and somehow familiar. Erica turned her head to see a tall man with graying temples stepping between her and Officer Reynolds. He wore civilian clothes, but his stance and tone suggested law enforcement background. "This doesn't concern you, Harrington," Reynolds snapped. "Back off before I arrest you for interfering." "You know that's not happening." The man named Harrington didn't budge. "There are about 15 cameras on you right now. And what I just witnessed was a clear violation of department policy, not to mention the law." While they faced off, two more people approached Erica, a middle-aged couple who helped her sit up. "Are you all right?" the woman asked, offering a tissue for the small cut on Erica's palm. "I think so," Erica replied shakily, though the throbbing in her side suggested she'd have impressive bruising by morning. Officer Reynolds was now on his radio, calling for backup. His face flushed with anger as Harrington continued to stand his ground. The crowd had grown to nearly 30 people, many filming, some shouting questions and criticisms at Reynolds' Erica's security team, who had been following at a discreet distance, finally arrived on the scene, pushing through the crowd with urgent purpose. Her head of security, Rivera, knelt beside her, his usually impassive face tight with concern and barely controlled anger. "Ms. Bennett, are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" he asked, already signaling to his colleague to call for an ambulance. Only then did a flicker of recognition cross Officer Reynolds' face. His eyes widened slightly as he looked more closely at the woman he'd just assaulted on a public street. Harrington noticed the change and a grim smile crossed his face. "Just figuring it out now, Reynolds? You just assaulted Erica Bennett, founder of Bennett Technologies, the woman who donated the money for the department's community outreach program last year." The wail of approaching sirens filled the air as 3 police cars rounded the corner, followed by an ambulance. The blue lights cast strange shadows across the gathered faces, highlighting the tension of the scene. As 2 officers approached, Harrington immediately took charge, identifying himself. "James Harrington, former CPD, badge 6129. I witnessed everything and I'll be filing a formal complaint. This woman needs medical attention first. Then I suggest you review the multiple videos of this incident before deciding who's getting arrested tonight." While the newly arrived officers conferred with Harrington and Reynolds, paramedics helped Erica to the ambulance to examine her injuries. Sitting on the edge of the vehicle, watching the scene unfold, Erica felt a strange numbness replace her initial shock and fear. She'd experienced discrimination before, but never violence like this. Her assistant arrived breathless, having been called by security. "The event organizers understand completely. They're sending their best wishes and hope you're okay. Should I cancel tomorrow's meetings?" Erica shook her head slowly. "No, I'll be there." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "We have work to do, more than I realized." As the paramedics finished examining her and advised her to go to the hospital for x-rays, Erica watched Harrington walking toward her. Something in his determined stride and the way other officers seemed to respect him, despite his civilian clothes, intrigued her. He had stepped in when no one else would. What she didn't know yet was how this chance encounter would change both their lives and spark a movement that would ripple through the city's power structures in the months to come. By the next morning, Erica Bennett's name and face were everywhere. The video of her being kicked to the ground had spread like wildfire across social media platforms, news websites, and morning shows. The 15-second clip that captured the moment Officer Reynolds' boot connected with her ribs played on repeat, each viewing stoking public outrage. Erica sat propped up in her bed, surrounded by pillows that did little to ease the pain in her bruised side. Her laptop balanced on her knees as she scrolled through the flood of messages, calls, and news alerts. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing since dawn. The doctor had advised rest, but sleep had been impossible. "You should really turn that off," her assistant Priya suggested, setting down a cup of tea on the nightstand. Priya had arrived at 6 in the morning, canceling Erica's meetings despite her protests. "Social media will still be there tomorrow." "I need to know what's happening," Erica replied, wincing as she shifted position. The hospital had confirmed 2 bruised ribs and recommended rest, pain management, and follow-up care. Nothing was broken, but every breath reminded her of the previous night's violence. On her screen, a news anchor was interviewing a police spokesperson. "The Chicago Police Department takes these allegations very seriously. Officer Reynolds has been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. We are reviewing all available footage and witness statements." Standard response. Empty words. Erica had heard them before in countless similar cases. "They're calling you," Priya said quietly, nodding toward the television where Erica's corporate headshot now filled the screen. "The billionaire victim," Erica frowned. "That's not what this is about." "I know," Priya agreed. "But it's getting attention. People who might normally scroll past these stories are stopping to watch. Your name is making them pay attention." A text message lit up Erica's phone, from her company's PR director suggesting a press statement, another from her lawyer, advising caution about public comments while they prepared legal action, 3 more from various news outlets requesting interviews. The doorbell rang. Priya went to answer it while Erica closed her eyes for a moment, gathering strength. When she opened them again, her head of security, Rivera, stood in the doorway, his expression grim. "Ms. Bennett, there's someone here you might want to talk to." "James Harrington, the man who stepped in last night." Erica nodded. "Show him in." Harrington entered the room hesitantly, a stark contrast to his commanding presence the night before. In daylight, she could see he was in his early 50s with kind eyes that carried a weight of experience. He held a small paper bag in one hand. "Ms. Bennett, I'm sorry to intrude. I wanted to check how you're doing and—" He paused, seemingly unsure of himself. "I brought bagels. Hospital food is terrible, and I figured you might not feel like cooking." The unexpected gesture brought a small smile to Erica's face. "Thank you, Mr. Harrington, and please call me Erica." "Then I'm James," he replied, setting the bag down. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got kicked by a cop," Erica said dryly. "But I'll heal. Thanks to you, it wasn't worse." James shook his head. "Don't thank me. What happened to you shouldn't have happened at all." As Priya took the bagels to the kitchen, Erica studied the man more carefully. "You knew him, Reynolds. You called him by name." "Yes," James confirmed, taking a seat in the chair beside her bed when she gestured for him to sit. "I worked at the same precinct for 12 years. Left the force 3 years ago. Why?" James looked down at his hands. "Let's just say I saw too many incidents like yours that got swept under the rug. I tried working within the system to change things. Filed reports, spoke up at meetings, mentored younger officers. But after a while..." He trailed off, then met her eyes directly. "After a while, you either become part of the problem or you walk away." "So you walked away," Erica said. "Not a question. I did." His voice held a note of regret. "Started a small security consulting business. It pays the bills." Outside Erica's apartment, a small group of reporters had gathered. The building's security kept them at bay, but their presence was a reminder of the growing story. James glanced toward the window. "You're at the center of a storm now," he said. "I've seen how these things play out. The department will close ranks. They'll dig into your past, looking for anything to shift the narrative. Traffic tickets, old disputes, tax issues. Anything to change the conversation from what Reynolds did to who you are." "Let them try," Erica replied. "I've been through public scrutiny before. When you're a black woman running a billion-dollar tech company, people are always looking for ways to tear you down." Her phone buzzed again, this time with a notification that the original video had reached 5 million views. Below it was a message from her mother. who had seen the footage and was driving in from Milwaukee. The difference this time, James continued, is that people are watching. That video is impossible to explain away. Reynolds has had complaints before, but nothing stuck because it was always his word against someone else's. Now there's proof. Erica pulled up a news site on her laptop and turned it so James could see. A new headline had appeared. Officer in Bennett assault has history of complaints. All dismissed. They're digging already, she said. James nodded grimly. And they'll find plenty. Reynolds has been protected by the department for years. I filed 2 reports myself about his excessive use of force, especially with minority suspects. Nothing came of them. While they talked, Priya returned with coffee and the now plated bagels. You should eat something, she urged Erica. Your mother called again. She'll be here in 2 hours. As Erica reached for a bagel, her phone lit up with a call from her lawyer. She answered, putting it on speaker. Erica, have you seen the department's statement? Her lawyer asked without preamble. Just the standard "we're investigating" line, she replied. They've added more. They're claiming you failed to comply with officer instructions and made threatening movements. They're painting it as a justified response to potential threat. James made a disgusted sound. Right on schedule. Who's that? The lawyer asked sharply. James Harrington. He witnessed everything and intervened last night. Erica explained. He's a former officer from the same precinct. There was a pause on the line. Mr. Harrington, would you be willing to make a formal statement? Already did, James replied. Filed it this morning with Internal Affairs and sent copies to the Civilian Oversight Board and State Attorney's Office. I know how evidence has a way of disappearing in these cases. After the call ended, Erica found herself studying James with new interest. You really don't think the system works, do you? I think it works exactly as designed, he answered. The question is, who was it designed to work for? Their conversation was interrupted by Rivera, who entered with a tablet in hand. Ms. Bennett, you should see this. He handed her the tablet showing a social media post. It was a different angle of the previous night's incident, captured by a security camera from the building across the street. This footage showed the entire encounter from the moment Erica was pulled over. It clearly showed her using her turn signal, contradicting Reynolds' stated reason for the stop. This changes things, James said, leaning forward to watch the video again. It proves the stop itself was unjustified. More importantly, Erica added, it shows everything I did to comply. There was no reason for any of what followed. As the day progressed, more footage emerged. A nearby food delivery driver had captured the clearest video yet of Reynolds kicking Erica while she was down. A rideshare driver had recorded Reynolds' aggressive approach to her car window. Each new angle added to the growing picture of unprovoked police brutality. By evening, the story had evolved. News anchors no longer just called Erica the billionaire victim. They used her full name, showed photos of her at charity events, mentioned her rise from humble beginnings to tech industry leader, and highlighted her philanthropic work, including, ironically, her donations to police community outreach programs. They're humanizing you, James observed as they watched the coverage. That rarely happens in these cases. Erica nodded soberly. Because they can't ignore me. I have resources, visibility, and privilege that most victims of police violence don't have. She turned to face him directly, and that's exactly why I can't let this drop. As night fell, protesters gathered outside the police precinct where Reynolds worked. Hundreds of people held signs with Erica's corporate headshot alongside the words, "It could have been me." Online, the hashtag Justice for Erica was trending nationwide. In her bedroom-turned-command center, Erica made a decision. Despite her lawyer's advice to rest and let them handle the legal response, she opened her laptop and began to type. A public statement that would make it clear this wasn't just about her. A promise that she would use every resource at her disposal to ensure accountability, not just for Officer Reynolds, but for the system that had protected him for years. As she wrote, James sat quietly nearby, occasionally offering insights from his years on the force. Their unlikely alliance was already raising eyebrows. The black female tech billionaire and the white ex-cop who had crossed the thin blue line. Neither of them could have predicted how their partnership would evolve in the coming days, or how their combined perspectives would shed light on problems that had festered in darkness for too long. But as Erica finished her statement and hit send, one thing was clear. What had begun as one woman's traumatic experience was rapidly becoming a catalyst for something much bigger. The public wasn't just outraged by what had happened to Erica Bennett. They were watching to see what would happen next. 3 days after the incident, Erica sat in her lawyer's office downtown, surrounded by her legal team. The bruising along her side had darkened to a deep purple, a constant reminder of that night. She shifted uncomfortably in her chair as her lead attorney Wilson laid out their options. "The department has offered a settlement," Wilson said, sliding a document across the polished table. "They want this to go away quickly." Erica glanced at the paper without touching it. "How much?" $2 million, plus a formal apology and mandatory sensitivity training for the precinct. The room fell silent as everyone waited for her response. Erica looked around at the expectant faces. Her corporate lawyers, the civil rights attorney she'd brought in, her PR director. All professionals used to calculating risks and rewards, costs and benefits. "No," she said simply. Wilson leaned forward. "Erica, this is a generous offer. Most victims of police misconduct never see a fraction of this amount." "That's exactly the problem," she replied, her voice firm. "This isn't about money. If I take this settlement, nothing changes. Reynolds gets a slap on the wrist. The department issues a meaningless apology and everything continues as before." She pushed the paper back across the table. "I don't need their money. What I want is accountability." As her team exchanged glances, Erica's phone buzzed with a text from James. "Turn on Channel 7. She reached for the remote on the conference room wall and switched on the television mounted there. A press conference was underway. Officer Reynolds stood at a podium, his wife beside him, reading from a prepared statement. "I want to express my deepest regrets for the incident involving Ms. Bennett," he read, his voice flat and emotionless. "I've served this community for 15 years with distinction. One moment of misjudgment should not define my career or character. My family and I have received death threats since the video went viral. We ask for privacy and understanding during this difficult time." The camera panned to show the police chief and union representative standing supportively behind him. The chief stepped forward next, speaking about Reynolds' decorated service record and the stress officers face daily. Erica switched off the television, her jaw tight. "They're trying to control the narrative, make him the victim. It's a standard playbook," her civil rights attorney noted. "Humanize the officer, emphasize their service, redirect focus from the incident to the aftermath." Erica's phone buzzed again. Another text from James. "Need to talk. Not over phone. Can you meet?" An hour later, Erica slipped into a back booth at a quiet cafe 10 blocks from her lawyer's office. She'd avoided the press camped outside by using the building's service exit. Despite wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, she still drew curious glances from other patrons who thought they recognized her. James arrived 5 minutes later, carrying a manila envelope. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes suggesting sleepless nights. "Thanks for coming," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "I couldn't risk saying this where anyone might overhear." "What's going on?" Erica asked, noting his unusual tension. James glanced around before placing the envelope on the table between them. "I've been contacted by 4 other officers from the precinct. Young guys still believing they can make a difference. They've been documenting Reynolds' behavior for months, but were afraid to come forward." Erica's eyes widened. "They're willing to testify?" "Not yet," James admitted. "They're scared of retaliation. But they gave me these," he tapped the envelope. "Copies of incident reports that were altered after filing. Documentation of racial profiling in traffic stops. Text messages showing Reynolds and others targeting specific neighborhoods and demographics." Erica reached for the envelope, but James placed his hand over hers, stopping her. "Before you look at these, you need to understand what you're getting into," he said gravely. "This isn't just about Reynolds anymore. This evidence points to systemic issues throughout the precinct. If you pursue this, you're going up against the entire department, the union, and a culture that protects its own at all costs." Erica met his gaze steadily. "I understand. Do you?" James pressed. "They'll come after you. Dig into your company, your personal life, your family. They'll try to discredit you any way they can." "I'm not afraid of them," Erica said. "You should be," James replied. "I've seen what happens to whistleblowers. After I left the force, I lost friends I'd had for decades. My marriage fell apart under the pressure. I couldn't get security work in the city because I was blacklisted." He paused, his voice dropping. "Someone shot my dog, Erica. Left a note saying I was next if I didn't keep my mouth shut. The cafe seemed suddenly quieter as the weight of his words settled between them. A server approached their table but retreated when James shook his head slightly. "Why did you help me that night?" Erica asked. "Knowing the cost?" James was quiet for a long moment. "Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. I'd already failed too many times by staying silent." He looked down at his hands. "Maybe I was trying to make up for all the times I saw something wrong and did nothing." Erica nodded slowly, understanding the burden he carried. "And now? Why show me these?" She nodded toward the envelope. "Because you have the power to make them listen," he said. "Your voice carries weight that mine doesn't. Your resources can fight battles I couldn't." He smiled ruefully. "And maybe because I'm tired of carrying this alone." Erica took the envelope and placed it in her bag. "I'll have my team look into these carefully. If what you're saying is true, we're going to need more than just documents. We need those officers to go on record." "They're scared," James repeated. "Then we need to give them a reason to be brave," Erica replied. "Protection, resources, a platform where they'll be heard." She paused, thinking. "My foundation has connections with legal advocacy groups. We can ensure they have representation and support." As they talked, developing a strategy, Erica's phone kept lighting up with notifications. The hashtag #DarJusticeForErica had evolved into #DarPolice the Police. Protests had spread to 3 more precincts across the city. Community organizations were calling for civilian oversight committees with actual enforcement power. "It's getting bigger than us," Erica observed, showing James her screen. "That's how change happens," he replied. "The right spark at the right time." As they prepared to leave, Erica received an unexpected call from the mayor's office, requesting a private meeting the following morning. The mayor, facing re-election in 6 months, was suddenly very interested in police reform. "They're feeling the pressure," James noted when she told him about the call. "But be careful. Politicians care about optics, not justice." "I know how to handle politicians," Erica assured him. "I deal with tech CEOs and venture capitalists every day. Same game, different players." Outside the cafe, they parted ways with a new sense of purpose. What had begun as a chance encounter between strangers was evolving into a partnership neither could have anticipated. That evening, as Erica reviewed the documents James had provided, her doorbell rang. Priya answered it and returned with a small package. "It was left at the front desk," she explained, handing it to Erica. Security checked it. "Just a flash drive and a note." The handwritten note read simply, "More evidence, not just your precinct. Citywide pattern. A friend." Erica plugged the drive into her laptop and found hundreds of files, body camera footage that had never been released, internal emails discussing how to minimize liability in misconduct cases, training materials that emphasized officer protection over community safety. She called James immediately. "We have more, much more." "Anonymous source. Be careful," he warned. "Verify everything before using it. Could be planted to discredit us if we act on false information." "Already on it," Erica replied. "My tech team is authenticating the metadata on every file." As midnight approached, Erica stood at her living room window, looking out at the city lights. 3 days ago, she'd been focused on her company's quarterly projections and a new education initiative. Now she found herself at the center of a movement that could reshape policing in her city. Her side still ached from Reynolds's kick, but the pain had become a reminder of her purpose. She thought about the countless others who had suffered similar or worse abuse without the platform, resources, or privilege to fight back. People whose stories never went viral, whose names never became hashtags. Her phone chimed with a text from her mother. "Proud of you, baby. Be careful but be strong." Erica smiled at the message. Her mother had raised her to stand up for what was right, regardless of the cost. She'd watched her mother fight for better schools in their neighborhood, organize community support when the city tried to close their local library, and march for causes she believed in. Now it was Erica's turn to use her influence for something bigger than herself. The unexpected alliance with James, a white ex-cop with insider knowledge and his own reasons for seeking justice, had given her insights she wouldn't have had otherwise. Tomorrow's meeting with the mayor would be just the beginning. Erica had already instructed her foundation to establish a legal defense fund for officers who came forward as whistleblowers. Her tech company was developing an app for citizens to safely document and report police misconduct with automatic backup to secure servers. As she finally prepared for bed, Erica reflected on how quickly life could change. One moment of injustice captured on camera had set her on an unexpected path. The incident had revealed the worst in some people, but also the best in others, like James stepping forward when it would have been easier to walk away, or the anonymous source risking their career to share evidence. What remained to be seen was whether this moment would lead to lasting change or fade away like so many others before it. Erica was determined it would be the former. She had the resources, the platform, and now the motivation to make sure of it, and tomorrow, she would take the first step by showing the mayor exactly what she had discovered and what she planned to do about it. The mayor's office occupied the 5th floor of City Hall, a grand building that had witnessed generations of power shifts and political maneuvers. Erica arrived 15 minutes early for her appointment, accompanied by her lawyer Wilson and, at her insistence, James Harrington. The mayor's chief of staff had objected to James's presence, but Erica had been firm. Either James attended or she would take her evidence directly to the press. They waited in an ornate reception area, surrounded by portraits of previous mayors. James looked uncomfortable in his borrowed suit, tugging occasionally at the collar as if it might choke him. "Relax," Erica whispered. "Remember, we're not asking for favors. We're offering them a chance to be on the right side of this before it blows up further." James nodded, though his expression remained tense. "I've never been invited to this floor before. Usually, cops only make it to the 2nd floor for medal ceremonies." Before Erica could respond, the heavy wooden doors opened, and Mayor Lopez emerged, hand extended, and smile firmly in place. In her mid-50s with streaks of gray in her dark hair, Lopez had built her career on being a moderate, supportive of business interests while making just enough progressive gestures to maintain her base. "Ms. Bennett, thank you for coming," the mayor said warmly, shaking Erica's hand before turning to Wilson with a nod of recognition. Her smile faltered slightly when she reached James. "And you must be Mr. Harrington. I understand you were formerly with our police department." 12 years, James replied simply. The mayor led them into her private office, where the police commissioner, city attorney, and another man Erica didn't recognize were already seated around a conference table. The unknown man was introduced as David Chen, head of the Police Oversight Committee, a civilian board with limited powers that was widely considered ineffective. "Before we begin," Mayor Lopez said as they took their seats, "I want to express my personal regret about what happened to you, Ms. Bennett. The video was disturbing, and I assure you, we take allegations of police misconduct very seriously." "Allegations?" Erica repeated, raising an eyebrow. "There's video evidence of Officer Reynolds kicking me while I was on the ground." "I'd call that more than an allegation." The police commissioner, Reed, cleared his throat. "What the mayor means is that we're conducting a thorough investigation into the entire incident. Officer Reynolds has been placed on administrative leave and—" "Paid leave," James interrupted. "Let's be clear about that." Commissioner Reed's expression hardened. "That's standard procedure during an investigation, as you well know." "Mr. Harrington, what I know," James replied evenly, "is that Reynolds has had 17 civilian complaints in 8 years, none of which resulted in disciplinary action. That's not standard. That's a pattern." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Erica watched the officials exchange glances, clearly unprepared for James's specific knowledge. "We didn't come here to rehash one incident," Erica said, opening her briefcase. "We're here because what happened to me is part of a systemic problem." She removed a thumb drive and placed it on the table. "This contains evidence of a pattern of misconduct, falsified reports, and racial profiling across multiple precincts." The city attorney reached for the drive, but Erica placed her hand over it. "This is a copy. The originals are secure, along with additional documentation we haven't included yet." "What exactly are you looking for here, Ms. Bennett?" Mayor Lopez asked, her friendly tone now replaced with cautious professionalism. "Real reform," Erica answered, "not just sensitivity training or empty promises. We want a complete overhaul of how complaints are handled, independent investigations of all use of force incidents, and civilian oversight with actual teeth." Commissioner Reed leaned forward, his face flushing. "You come in here making demands based on unverified claims. The claims are verified," James cut in. by officers still serving under you who are afraid to come forward because of how whistleblowers are treated. And who exactly are these officers? Reed demanded. They'll come forward when they have assurances they won't face retaliation, Erica replied, which is another item on our list of demands. Real protection for those who report misconduct. For nearly 2 hours the discussion continued, sometimes heated, sometimes coldly professional. The city officials offered incremental changes, a review of complaint procedures, additional body cameras, more community outreach programs. Erica and James pushed for structural reforms that would fundamentally alter the power balance between police and oversight bodies. Throughout the meeting, Erica noticed Chen, the oversight committee head, saying little but watching intently. When he finally spoke, his question surprised her. What's your end game here, Ms. Bennett? A lawsuit? A settlement? Political capital? Erica considered the question carefully. Justice isn't an end game, Mr. Chen. It's an ongoing process. What happened to me was wrong, but it's just one example of what happens to people without my resources or platform every day. My end game is making sure those people have recourse when they're mistreated by those sworn to protect them. Chen nodded slowly, something like respect flickering in his eyes. Bold words, but change takes more than words or even money. It takes sustained political will, which is in short supply around election seasons. That's why we're prepared to make this very public if necessary, Wilson interjected. Ms. Bennett's foundation is ready to fund a public awareness campaign unlike anything this city has seen. Mayor Lopez, who had been taking notes, set down her pen. Let's be practical. The police union will fight most of these proposals tooth and nail. The budget implications alone would require city council approval. Then get it, Erica said simply. You're the mayor. Lead. As the meeting concluded without firm commitments, Chen approached Erica while the others were gathering their papers. That thumb drive, he said quietly. How much more do you have that wasn't on it? Enough, Erica replied, studying his face. Why? Chen glanced toward the mayor and commissioner, now deep in conversation across the room. Because I've been fighting for real oversight for 3 years and I've been stonewalled at every turn. My committee has no subpoena power, no independent investigators, no real authority. He handed her his card with a personal number scrawled on the back. If you're serious about reform, you might need allies on the inside. Outside City Hall, reporters had somehow gotten wind of the meeting. Cameras and microphones were thrust toward Erica as she emerged. James instinctively moved to shield her, his protective instinct kicking in despite the fact that these weren't physical threats. Ms. Bennett, is the city offering a settlement? Are you filing a lawsuit against Officer Reynolds? Mr. Harrington, why did you intervene that night? Rather than pushing through the crowd, Erica paused, making a split-second decision. I'll make a brief statement, she announced. The reporters fell into an expectant hush as she spoke. Today's meeting was a first step in what I hope will be a productive dialogue about meaningful police reform. What happened to me was not an isolated incident, but part of a pattern that affects many in our community, who don't have the resources to fight back. I'm committed to working toward a system where accountability isn't the exception, but the rule. As questions erupted again, Wilson stepped in to end the impromptu press conference, guiding Erica toward their waiting car. Once inside, James let out a long breath. You realize you just put yourself squarely in the crosshairs, he said. The department, the union, city officials, they were hoping you'd take a settlement and disappear. I'm not disappearing, Erica replied, her determination unwavering. Back at her apartment, Erica found 4 messages waiting from Chen. He wanted to meet again privately, with documents he hadn't felt comfortable sharing in the mayor's office. 2 more officers had contacted James, willing to testify about altered reports and targeting practices if they could remain anonymous until formal proceedings began. What had started as a one-woman stand was growing into a movement. Community organizations reached out to offer support. Legal advocacy groups offered pro bono services for affected citizens. Tech experts volunteered to help analyze the data they were gathering on complaint patterns. That evening, as Erica reviewed the latest information with her team in her living room, her security chief Rivera interrupted with urgent news. Someone broke into Mr. Harrington's apartment an hour ago, he reported grimly. Tore the place apart. He wasn't home, thankfully. James, who had stepped out to take a call, returned in time to hear this. His face paled. My files, already secured, Rivera assured him. We moved everything sensitive to our secure storage facility yesterday, as Ms. Bennett suggested. Erica crossed the room to where James stood. You can't go back there. It's not safe. This is exactly what I warned you about, James said, his voice tight with anger and worry. They're sending a message. Then we'll send one back, Erica replied. She turned to her PR director. Call a press conference for tomorrow morning. And contact our real estate agent. I want to lease a building downtown. Something visible with good security. For what? Her PR director asked. For the headquarters of the new Citizens Justice Initiative, Erica answered. A permanent organization dedicated to police accountability and reform. Fully funded, with legal, technical, and community outreach divisions. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what she was proposing. It wasn't just a response to one incident anymore, or even a campaign for policy changes. It was an institutional commitment to long-term systemic reform. They're not going to stop coming after us, James warned. This escalates everything. Good, Erica said firmly. Because I'm not stopping either. Later that night, as security teams monitored both Erica's apartment and the safe house where James had been relocated, she stood at her window looking out at the city lights. The bruises on her side were beginning to fade, but the determination they had sparked only grew stronger. Her phone chimed with a text from Chen. Meeting set with 2 council members who support oversight reform. They've seen the evidence. Want to join forces. Another message followed from her mother. Just saw the news. Standing with you. Be careful but be brave. Erica smiled at her mother's consistent support. Then she noticed something else. A small notification indicating that Officer Reynolds had just been placed on unpaid leave pending the outcome of an expanded investigation. A small victory but significant. Change was coming one step at a time. Not just for her case, but potentially for an entire system that had resisted accountability for too long. The path ahead would be difficult and dangerous. But Erica Bennett had never backed down from a challenge, especially one that mattered this much. And she wasn't walking that path alone anymore. 6 weeks after the incident that changed her life, Erica stood before a crowd gathered on the steps of the newly opened Citizens Justice Initiative headquarters. The modern glass building stood directly across from the Central Police Precinct, a deliberate choice that had raised eyebrows and blood pressures throughout the department. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows as hundreds of community members, activists, journalists, and even a few uniformed officers filled the plaza. Security was tight, with Rivera's team positioned strategically throughout the crowd. Death threats had become a daily occurrence for both Erica and James, but neither would consider retreating from public view. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning, Erica said into the microphone, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd. 6 weeks ago, I experienced firsthand what too many in our community have faced for generations. The abuse of power by those sworn to protect us. Camera flashes punctuated her words. In the front row, her mother watched with tears in her eyes beside James, who stood tall despite the toll of recent weeks. Behind them sat 4 police officers in civilian clothes, the whistleblowers who had finally found the courage to come forward publicly. What happened to me made headlines because of who I am, Erica continued. But this movement isn't about me. It's about creating a system where everyone receives equal justice regardless of their wealth, status, or the color of their skin. She gestured toward the gleaming building behind her. The Citizens Justice Initiative will serve 3 purposes. First, as a resource center for those who have experienced police misconduct, providing legal support, counseling, and advocacy. Second, as a data collection and analysis center, tracking patterns of behavior across precincts. And third, as an educational hub where officers and community members can come together to build mutual understanding and respect. From her position, Erica could see Commissioner Reed watching from the edge of the crowd, his expression unreadable. Mayor Lopez had declined the invitation to attend, citing a scheduling conflict, though everyone knew the real reason was political caution. With elections approaching, she was trying to avoid alienating either side. This morning, the City Council voted to approve key reforms we've been fighting for, Erica announced, prompting applause. Independent investigations of all use of force incidents, body cameras that cannot be turned off during civilian interactions, a civilian oversight board with real subpoena power, and protections for officers who report misconduct within their ranks. She paused, allowing the significance to sink in. These changes didn't come easily. They came because ordinary people refused to accept that things couldn't be different. They came because brave officers risked their careers to tell the truth. They came because community leaders kept pushing when it would have been easier to give up. As Erica spoke, she noticed a commotion at the back of the crowd. A man was pushing his way forward, ignoring the protests of those around him. Rivera noticed, too, his hand moving inside his jacket as he stepped toward the disturbance. The man who emerged from the crowd wasn't a threat, but his presence sent a ripple of whispers through the gathering. Officer Reynolds, now suspended pending termination proceedings, stood with his hands raised to show he carried no weapon. Erica faltered mid-sentence, her prepared remarks momentarily forgotten. James moved protectively toward her, but she gave a slight shake of her head, indicating she was okay. "Ms. Bennett," Reynolds called out, his voice carrying in the sudden silence. "I'd like to speak if you'll allow it." The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some calling for him to leave, others curious about what he might say. Security personnel looked to Erica for direction. It was a critical moment, one that could either inflame tensions or potentially open a door to something unexpected. Erica made her decision. "Officer Reynolds has the same right to be heard as anyone else," she said into the microphone, though her heart was racing. That's what equal justice means. As Reynolds approached the steps, James positioned himself between him and Erica, close enough to intervene if necessary, but allowing the officer to speak. Reynolds looked different from the aggressive man who had kicked her to the ground 6 weeks earlier. His face was haggard, his uniform replaced by civilian clothes that hung loosely on his frame, suggesting weight loss. "I came here today not to defend what I did," he began, his voice hoarse. "There is no defense for it. I came to say publicly what I should have said weeks ago. I was wrong. My actions were inexcusable." The crowd remained tense, skeptical of his motives. Erica herself felt conflicted. This was the man who had humiliated and injured her, whose actions had caused her weeks of physical pain and emotional stress. "For years, I told myself I was one of the good ones," Reynolds continued, "that the complaints against me were exaggerated, that people didn't understand the pressures we face. I believed I was the victim of a system that asks too much of officers while giving too little support." He looked directly at Erica now. "What I did to you forced me to see myself clearly for the first time. The man in that video, that wasn't who I thought I was, but it was who I had become." Erica maintained her composure, though her emotions were turbulent. She hadn't expected this public confession, hadn't prepared herself for the complex feelings it would evoke. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Reynolds said. "I'm not asking for my job back. I'm here because I want to be part of the solution, not just another example of the problem. If there's any way my experience can help with your reform efforts, as a cautionary tale, as evidence of how the culture changes good intentions, anything, I'm offering that today." The plaza remained silent as he finished speaking. No one quite knew how to react to this unexpected turn. It would have been easier if he had come to argue or defend himself. Anger was simpler to deal with than this complicated offering. James was the first to respond, stepping forward to stand beside Reynolds. "Accountability isn't just about punishment," he said, his voice carrying without the need for a microphone. "It's about acknowledging harm and working to repair it. That's a start." Erica moved forward as well, taking the portable microphone with her. "Officer Reynolds," she said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil, "I appreciate your words today. True change requires honest reflection from all sides. While I can't speak for everyone affected by similar incidents, I believe your perspective could indeed be valuable to our work." She turned back to the crowd. "This is what progress looks like. Uncomfortable, messy, without easy answers. It's not about villains and heroes. It's about systems that either bring out the best or the worst in people, and our collective responsibility to change those systems." As the formal program concluded and the crowd began to disperse, Chen from the Oversight Committee approached Erica with news. The State Attorney General had announced a broader investigation into patterns of misconduct across the entire department, based largely on evidence they had provided. "It's going federal," Chen told her quietly. "Too big for local politics to contain anymore." Inside the new headquarters, Erica's team gathered for a private moment of reflection. The building hummed with activity, legal staff reviewing cases, data analysts mapping complaint patterns, community outreach coordinators planning neighborhood meetings. 6 weeks? Priya marveled, handing Erica a cup of tea. It feels like years. We're just getting started, Erica replied, looking around at what they had built. The 4 whistleblower officers were meeting with James in one conference room, sharing insights about departmental culture that would inform training programs. Her tech team was in another, developing a secure app for reporting and tracking incidents. Later that evening, as the building emptied, Erica found herself alone with James in her new office overlooking the city. The bruises from her encounter with Reynolds had faded completely, though she suspected the emotional impact would remain much longer. "Did you ever imagine this?" she asked, gesturing toward the operation they had created. "When you stepped in that night, did you think it would lead here?" James shook his head. "I just knew I couldn't walk by one more time. Couldn't live with myself if I did." He looked out at the lights of the city. "But this is bigger than anything I could have imagined." "We've made progress," Erica acknowledged, "but there will be pushback. The union is already challenging some of the reforms in court. The mayor's support is shaky at best, and there are officers who see us as the enemy. There are also officers who see us as hope," James countered. "The 4 who came forward are just the beginning. I've had calls from cops in other precincts, even other cities, asking how they can help." Their unlikely partnership had evolved into a deep friendship built on shared purpose. The billionaire tech CEO and the former cop, on paper they had little in common, but their commitment to justice had forged a bond stronger than their differences. "What Reynolds did today?" Erica said thoughtfully. "Do you think he meant it?" James considered the question. "I think he's struggling to make sense of who he's become. Whether that leads to genuine change or just self-pity depends on what he does next." He paused. "People can change, Erica, systems can too, but it takes time and constant pressure." As night fell over the city, Erica knew their work was just beginning. The incident that had brought them together was now part of a larger story, one about the possibility of transformation, both personal and institutional. The road ahead would have setbacks and disappointments alongside victories and progress, but looking at what they had accomplished in just 6 weeks gave her hope. The Citizens Justice Initiative wasn't just a building or an organization. It was a commitment to the idea that justice shouldn't depend on who you are or what resources you have. That accountability matters, that one person standing up can inspire others to do the same, and that sometimes the most unexpected partnerships can create the most powerful change.